The next section's winning partnerships, and we're going to cover two items: user group meeting and virtual controller relationships. Back in, I think it might have been January of this year, we were contacted by Big Hill, Kent, Brian, about the possibilities of holding a user group meeting in Northwest Iowa. And we were very intrigued by that. And we put together a user group mail list for FBS users up in that area that may be interested in attending something like that. So they went ahead and put together a meeting, and Brian's going to kind of go through some of the process that they went through to get things started and some results from the meeting. And I think it's fantastic. I'd love to see more FBS users doing something like this. So I'll turn it over to Brian.
Thank you, Mike. So I don't want to bore you with the details of how we went about setting up and organizing the meeting, but we will go over a few things. And my point in that is not to bore you, but to give you a basis where if this is something that interests you and you have users in your area that would benefit from this, then you have something to start from. And so we'll just jump right in here. So we held our meeting back in March. We got a mailing list from FBS, as Mike mentioned, and our first contact was a mailed letter. We didn't have email addresses for everybody on that list. There might have been some. So we mailed out a letter. We had a preliminary agenda that said, here's what we'd like to cover. But we were very open to whatever the interest level was. We would cover other things if there was interest to do that. So we wanted to collect some information about the participants that signed up. And so we did that through a Google form. On our letter, we had the link. They could go to that form. They could fill out the information. And we were asking for things like, what systems do you use? What are the enterprises involved in your operation? How many years of experience do you have with FBS? And so we had a foundation there of the people that were coming to the meeting so that we could tailor our final agenda to try to get something for everybody. So that the new users, we had users that were less than 1 year. We had users that had been on FBS for quite some time. The Sunday Farms crew back there was at our meeting, and they've been on FBS for quite a while. And we wanted to make it, so that there wasn't a huge cost involved. So we said, come on over for the day. We'll feed you dinner. The only cost that you have is your travel time and associated. You had to stay in a hotel and things like that. What we ended up with 16 individuals and represented 9 different businesses. And when I say 9 businesses, we had one representative, Bob Krokmeyer from Lodge Harrison, and we also had Mike Buggs from FBS. And so we counted them as a business. So basically there's 7 others that were represented there at the meeting. And the experience level, as I mentioned, less than a year. And just the way we broke it out on our little survey, we said 13 plus years. So I don't know what John, how many years he's been on FBS, but more than 13, I don't know. And just to give you a little bit of a flavor of what the response rate was. We sent about 80 letters out. And we did it sort of in 3 phases. We took the closest ones first and sent out a batch. Because we didn't know if it was going to be a good response, a bad response. And we didn't want to get overwhelmed or get into our heads. So we did that, and then we sent a second, we went on a little further, sent a second letter out, and then the last one was, quite a ways out, which I can't blame some of those people for not wanting to come, drive for a lot of hours for what they did. So we ended up, it's about 10-11% return on the ones that came compared to how many companies we invited. But I thought we had a good mix. We had hog people, we had crop people, we had a cow-cat operation. We had the new users, the experienced users, and I think I can say that we all learned something that day. It might have been something that we weren't really expecting to learn. Because sometimes the power users can learn from the new users. They're going through the setup process, and sometimes we think that just because we're down the road a ways that the setup is behind us, but maybe there's something that we can gain from their experience. Here's a little snapshot of where people came from. We're located right here with the green dot, and these are all the participants here. And I think Mike probably has the longest drive down here. We did appreciate the fact that Mike was willing to take time out of his schedule to come sit with us. Going into the meeting, we did talk about the fact that there's upsides and downsides to having an FBS representative there. The upside, obviously, they've got experience and knowledge about the FBS system that they can share with the group, answer questions, that sort of thing. The downside is that if you get a group of individuals together and they have a problem, they're less apt to maybe talk about their frustration or their problem when someone from FBS is sitting in the room. That's just how it is. So we made it clear when we started that day, I think, we made it clear that, hey, let's just talk about how things are going. We want to hear the good, we want to hear the bad, and we want to just kind of get it out there on the table. And I think it was a profitable day in that regard. I think Mike went away with some good feedback, and I think the users benefited from Mike being there, because there were times where we had a question, and Mike would be able to clarify that, and then we move on. And it was neat to see. We talked about. I guess I'll get into some examples here in a bit, but this is what it looked like. We had a bunch of tables pushed together. Everybody was around the table, and we did have a projector. We had our FBS up on the projector, which we used a little bit, but most of it was just discussion. And we laid it out in, there's basically 4 components on our agenda. We laid out accounting, so just the basic accounting piece, the smart feeder, the crop audit, and then we had a section with entitled share an example, and that's where we wanted everybody to try to just say something that's really going good, that you're using FBS, that's helping your operation, that someone else could benefit from that. So why did we decide to do this? So the root of this goes back to Kent. In his days at General Mills, they actually started a a user group for SAP users. And so he had experience with that. He saw the benefit of that, and shared that with us at Big Hill. And we decided we're not out too much. The worst that could happen is nobody wants to come, and we don't do it. So, but we did it, and so what's the purpose? I mean, the short answer: we're learning from others. It's as simple as that. We all have similar goals and challenges with our systems. I think we can think back across the today and yesterday, and we can say, I think one of the things that is on our minds as well as SBS is how do we get the reporting? We want that, we need it, and that's what it's about. We can increase our FaceTime with FBS users, and any business is about relationships, really, when it comes down to it. We have good Big Hill people. I think we have a good relationship with some of the farms staff back here, and we bounce things back and forth. I hope they get benefit from that because we certainly do. So, focused discussions yet flexible. And so, when I think of a user group, it's owned by the users. And so, we're well aware that when we come to an FBS conference, there has to be a structure, there has to be presenters, and they have to have things mapped out by time and all of that. In a user group, we can be more flexible. We can focus in on something that is on the minds of that group. And maybe we come together and we didn't really think that we talk about certain topics on that day, but someone brings it up and we steer off for a while and we cover it. So we can take those detours, those rabbit trails. And then I just wanted to make the point too that this user group that we did, or any user group, it's not to replace the FBS conference, and it's not to replace FBS support. It's in conjunction to that. So it's another tool in the toolbox, so to speak. We still need, I still email Sarah if I have a problem with something. I'll email Mike or Norm, that sort of thing. We're still coming to the conferences, but from these things we can learn different things from different people. And a lot of times I like to say that we have these user groups at the conference. You sit by someone at lunch and you talk about things. It's just that that's an informal one. This was a little bit more formal, but not too formal. What did we hope to gain? New ideas or direction for further development. See what others are doing. How can we apply that to our operation, or maybe see what others are doing and say, well, we really don't want to go there. That works both ways, I think. Learn from successes and failures, and the comment I want to make on this is that I think everybody benefits if when we come to a meeting like this, if we kind of check our pride at the door and say we've all had failures, we've all had successes, and if we're willing to talk about what we failed at, I think others benefit from that. I think it makes us more open, more exposed, that we can take things from others as well. Find out how other users are handling specific things. And I've heard enough conversations these past couple of days here that that happens all the time. Hey, how do you handle it payroll? Or what are you doing in this area? A greater awareness of capabilities, creative uses of FBS. One example I could give for this, and it didn't happen at our meeting, but last year, Gary Donnelly spoke from Carthage, that system. And he talked about how they were using division codes to track the construction costs for their cell farms that their system was built. Okay, that wasn't the initial purpose of FBS when they put division codes in there, but they were using that effectively. And so that's what I would say is a creative use. And so we hear things like that. We might not want to do that exact same thing, but it might start the wheels turning and say, what could I use that division code for? And then, a result of all of this is to provide the feedback to the FBS team. And I think we provided feedback to FBS. I hope we did. That's not probably primary. Our primary was to learn from each other. But I think as a result of those discussions, we could say here are the top 3 issues that we're facing at 2. And then that gives FBS an opportunity to respond to that. So how did we focus? We asked some questions, and for each of the county smart feeder crop audit, each of those modules, we tried to ask these questions several times throughout the day. But what do you like most? What's your biggest challenge or frustration? What would you change? And then we like those specific examples as well. Here's an example. What is it that, tell us about a report or show us a report that has made an impact on your operation, a process. And then we also have the new users with us, and so we tried to incorporate into the day some advice from those that had experience. They could say, this is what to watch out for. When you're setting up your FBS, maybe don't do this or do this, those sort of things. So some of the key takeaways, we covered a lot of ground. This was a pretty broad session. We hope to get together again with those who are interested in the future, and we might be more focused on our future meetings. We might just say, okay, we're going to cover smart feeder. We'll spend the day in smart feeder. Or maybe it's just an aspect within smart feeder that we focus in on. But this session was pretty broad, and we had a lot of takeaways, I think, as individuals when we walked away. This is probably a little bit slanted towards us at Pig Hill because we kind of put this together. We tried to take feedback and kind of put it into some key points. This is not all encompassing by any means. So overall, we think FBS does a good job of handling the multiple entities, rolling them into a single picture. We had operations there that were doing that, and they were pretty happy with how that was going. So kudos to FBS on that. Having the production and financial information in the same system is valuable. It's one of the reasons why many of us were drawn to FBS in the first place. So we did it all in one system. It goes back to Ken's talk yesterday. We've got that single database, and then we have these ancillary systems that feed back to that. But we're not reporting out of try not to report out of all these ancillary systems, but once it's into FBS, a single database, and we can do our reporting out of that. The 4 levels of accounting make the system more powerful. We've got different audiences. We have the bank, the tax guy, Joe had mentioned earlier, there's those different audiences, and so we need to get the right information to the right people. And so that is made easier by the board levels. And then overall, reporting is an area for improvement. It's not a critical statement. I think it's just that was what we came out of the meeting, the users were saying. And I think it was taken to heart by FBS. I think, the workshop we had on Monday may have been a result of that. I don't know. But we've heard that several times, I think. And we've also heard, from Norm and from Martin, from Mike, some of the things that are on the drawing table to kind of bring that area along. So we appreciate that. In the accounting area, one of the things that was surprising, we talked about scanner interface, and we had just set up a scanner interface in 2015. We're using it. But when that topic came up, we were sitting around the table, and there's some that were using it, some didn't even know it existed, some had heard of it, but they didn't know what it did. And so I thought that was a great example of everybody left that day, they at least knew what scanner interface did. They maybe had an idea if they wanted to implement it. And then we had some follow-up conversations with some people as far as we shared, for those of us at Big Hill that were using it, how did the setup go? And Tyler was instrumental in that. He did the research, figured out which scanner was going to be the best one, did a great job with that. And so we shared that information with some other users. And hopefully they can benefit from that. Inventory register. This came up at one point, and it's sort of like everybody was like, I don't really know what that does or why we would use it. So that's just another example of something that, well, maybe we don't really know what it does, and we need to ask FBS, or maybe that's something that FBS is, really not focused on. But it was just one of those things that you're kind of like, well, what are we doing with this? It doesn't really track our depreciation. And so is it just a place to list assets and that sort of thing, or is there some other thing that we don't know about? Some FBS modules are functional but need to be more user-friendly. And I think we had some discussion that day about some of the modules. Do they do what they need to do? Absolutely. Could it be more user-friendly? We as users, we thought so. We don't know what it takes to make that happen. Obviously, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to make changes and that sort of thing. But I think it's important for that feedback to get back to FBS too. So I'd like to say we didn't hold anything back. We shared our mind, and hopefully we have a stronger relationship because of that, and we also have more success both on the user side and the FBS side. In the livestock or smart feeder area, we had quite a bit of discussion about feed budgets and rating tables. Some are using, some not using. But I think everybody was more aware coming out of that meeting than maybe what they were going in. And then probably the big theme is the proper setup. So we have the new users there, they're listening to us. We're maybe at times throughout the day belly aching a little bit. We didn't quite set things up right. A little bit difficult. And it is a very complex system. And so, we tossed out ideas on how can we make that easier. One of the things that came up as well is there a way we can develop checklists so that as we're setting up the system. We don't miss stuff. I think we all probably can think about our own system, and when we first started on it, well, maybe we forgot to set up the bridge or something like that. And things weren't working right, or we forgot an account somewhere, lots of examples. And then we also had an opportunity, Mike gave an overview and just rolled out, or we're just about to roll out the port dashboard. And it's just another purpose of these meetings. There could be an awareness of what that was and how that would apply to us as users. And I'm sure there were maybe some that were interested, some that weren't, but at least everybody sitting around the table knew something about the port dashboard going on in the meeting. So we appreciate that. In the COP area, a lot of the discussion was focused on how can we save time, omit mistakes, interfaces. Everybody seems to have some kind of a precision farming system. How can we get that data from the tractor and get it into FBS without keying it in? And I think there was one user that said, "I wish I don't remember which system he used, but I wish there was an interface for that." Well, Mike was sitting there, and I believe, if I remember right, I think Mike said, "Well, I think there is an interface for that." So I hope that user went home and was able to get that working out. I don't know. And then the setup once again, lots of things to get right, and one of the key takeaways is if we get the setup right, things will go a lot smoother over time. That's all I have. I want to thank FBS for their support, providing us the contact information, and for allowing Mike to join us. If there's any, especially from the Sunday crew back there, if there's any feedback you want to throw in here about the day, you're certainly welcome that. You're a big part of it as well.
Hey, y'all did a great job hosting it, and it was
Absolutely.
very, very well run. And it was nice having Mike there. We did voice our opinions, both good and bad. And Mike has big shoulders, and he took it very well. Mike did a great job.
Yeah, I think that was the whole intent. For that meeting to be successful, we needed that open dialogue and not hold back, because I was there. David's great for breaking the ice on that. but it did. I mean, it was good dialogue, and there was definitely some negative things about FBS, and I have to deal with that and go back to the programmers and make some changes. But the data mining workshop did stem from that meeting. That meeting was, we're feeding the beast. We're putting all these transactions into it, and I'm not getting a whole lot of information out of FBS. And that's a problem, because I got significant investment in the software and a significant investment in my time, and I'm not benefiting like I should. So the data mining workshop stemmed from the user group meeting. You're talking about the scanner interface. It's happened even at the FBS conference, that scanner interface. People are like, "Oh, how are you using that? What are you doing?" And Tyler went upstairs and grabbed the scanner and hooked it up and gave a demonstration live right there in the meeting. Everybody's like, "Wow, that easy?" And I know he put a lot of work into getting all the historical items scanned and attached, but in the end, they have a great system now with all the invoices linked to it, and moving forward, it's a lot easier with that process in place. Personally, I benefit tremendously. I've only been to the FBS conference. This is my second year, third year conference, second year of the company, and this is all FBS pushing your direction. That meeting was everybody else pushing towards FBS, and positive and negative, but a different flow of information, which is great for FBS and for the users to learn from each other and talk about pluses and minuses of FBS.
Yeah, it was very good to have FBS there. And the programming, well, there is no perfect program. I mean, there is nothing out there. But, I mean, for agriculture and talking with the molders, and I mean, to me, it is by far the best agriculture program out there. And it is nice to get together with other users and see what their frustrations are and how they overcome them. And help you overcome some of their own frustrations.
Will mentioned that, we hope to do this again at some point. We originally I thought maybe in the summer, but you know how summer gets, vacations and all of that. And anyways, it might be a colder month. But if anybody, know of anybody that's in our area that would be interested, if we do get together again, certainly have them contact us. We're not an exclusive group. We're open to whoever wants to show up. So, thank you.
Thanks, Brian. How are we on time?
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah, covered it.
I think so. The second piece of the winning partnerships is the virtual controller element that FBS has added. It's fairly new for FBS. It's not something that we initially said we're going to get involved with, but as we work with clients and see their needs, it varies from client to client. Some just need a consulting relationship, support the person and get things set up and get things running. But we have other clients based on their size may need what we call a virtual controller. And all that is someone to oversee what's happening in your office and review transactions and assist you with financial statement preparation, assist you with consolidated cost analysis type reports. And I think Mark was one of our first guinea pigs for the virtual controller. Mark runs a large swine operation, but he's limited on office staff. I said, just you.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, maybe this would be a good one to try it out. And Mark's in there by himself, and he expressed the need for more oversight. And we've been working together over a year now. And a part of the agreement is that Mark gives me access to his data, and also that I'm allowed to edit transactions. I don't actually post any transactions for affecting cash, so to speak. Mark's recording all the checks and deposits. But I'm reviewing all the deposits and looking at all the Packer interface data to make sure that everything's lined up. Mark's also on the dashboard, and we make sure that the data that's in FBS that gets pushed out to the dashboard is accurate. So I review his financials every month. And in the beginning, there was a fair amount of time wrapped up in just getting set up and things squared away. He is on Eclipse, so we have inventory valuation running. And I do perform all the Eclipse calculations and review, and he trusts me that everything's in line. But personally, I think it's a fantastic relationship. He's comfortable with what I'm doing. I'm comfortable with what he's doing, and we talk probably once a week. I think that's another key element to the relationship, is that we communicate. I do have some other virtual controller agreements that it's more sporadic in communication. Therefore, there's not as much transpiring. We talk quite a bit, and we're doing these financials on a monthly basis. We have quarterly bank reports that we have to produce, and the bankers want to see things in a certain way. And that gives me the flexibility of using the management / marketing journal entries to tweak the financials and put them in perspective for the bankers. And Mark can still run his normal accrual reports and everything. And he wants it. Another thing that we work on is last year's conference. We had a session on hedge accounting and proper accounting for hedges, and Mark wanted to implement that. So after last year's conference, we implemented the hedging process of reporting the open contracts under other comprehensive income. We altered his financial statements to accommodate for the hedge transactions. The bank wants to see them differently, so we showed that differently to the bank. All in all, it's really a virtual controller relationship. Boils down to what do you want to accomplish? What power do you want to give to me with your financial statements? Is it more of a review? Is it something you want on an ongoing basis? And it's really tailored to each client individually, and what staff they have in the office and what their need for me is. Maybe it's more of a setup process and then review after that. Maybe it's just review only. But it's pretty flexible, and so far I think we have six agreements right now, and my goal is to grow that over the next year. And ultimately, all I want to do is make sure that you're using FBS and that you're getting information out of FBS. And when the auditors send you an email with a checklist of items that they want from you, that you can forward email to me and have it taken care of, and takes pressure off of Mark, takes pressure off the client that they've got to do some of the stuff. I can fill in those blanks, and if there's things that you want to do yourself and not turn over to me, then that's fine too. So far it's been successful. I'd like to see it grow some more. So sometimes it'll be a virtual control agreement, sometimes just a straight up consulting agreement where I'm helping you get it set up and get things running, and then I kind of step out. But the virtual control agreement really gives me power to edit transactions, manipulate the financials, so it fits what needs to be done.
So when you say you're editing transactions, so basically be made like editing division or something.
Absolutely. I might change a ledger account. I might change the center.
So it was done improperly then? Is that why you're editing? Or, I guess does the person know which ones you did, so that the same mistake isn't made?
In Mark's case, no, he doesn't.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff he'll let me just keep doing. Some of it. I guess it with regard to when you input a transaction, and mostly it's just that. Like if it should go to a facility account, I'm just charging it against a group of pigs or something, and it gets fixed. And I guess. Yeah, if the question is whether he's correcting me a lot, there's not a lot of talk about that, but it gets fixed up, right? And that's the comfort for me, is that he's watching all the time what I'm doing, and nothing gets out of hand, and with regard to allocating expenses and things, if somewhere along the line that changes, he picks up, wow, we're not allocating enough to this group or this center or whatever, and makes those adjustments on the fly there as well.
And I wouldn't say that Mark's entering things incorrectly or improperly. I think a lot of that boils down to, I know how the WIP is set up, and I know how I'm allocating my costs. And he posts an entry to Division 0, and I say it should go to servicemen labor, then I just go click and edit that. Rarely do I change a ledger account. I've never changed a dollar amount. It's always, I do change sometimes Tyson deposits come in, they're often pending. I look at the trial balance, I'm often pending. I gotta go figure out what, I don't want Mark to worry about that. Just go find
You
it.
fix that problem.
How's that happen? And so you might be off 3 cents for the month, and it's 3 1-cent deposits. The Tyson file comes in with a rounding deal. So,
Then I send you the bank statement at the end of the month, and
Right.
and you go through and you do the reconciling and all that.
So we email back and forth quite a bit. We talk probably once a week, but whether you want to do the bank statement or you want me to do the bank statement, it's just a decision that say that one thing, all his hedge statements, and I report all his hedging transactions, not individual transactions, but summary for the month, and book all that. So we got a great relationship. We feed each other information, and sometimes I'm even reading his mind. I fix things right before he
That's
calls about it.
Yep.
But it's just a matter of communicating. It's really what it boils down to. I know what he wants done, and I know as far as the dashboard goes, I know I want all that log data clean. I don't want to be uploading bad information there, because I know he's got other people in the business that are looking at the dashboard and look at that data, and I don't want that to be incorrect. So that's probably our oldest relationship is with Mark, and we've got some new ones that we've been started this last year. So far, it's been good. Like I said, I want to work with everybody. I want everybody to be successful with software. I don't want people to be frustrated and lose faith in what the system's capable of doing. It's capable of doing a lot. But as Tony and I, we're working on WIP right now, and we got a lot of things to figure out. But once we get it running, she's capable of doing it herself. And I won't be involved other than a question here or there, and that's it. So that's what I want to be doing. No questions. That wraps up the segment.